Hello and welcome to another episode of Tori Talk and happy Women's History Month. Janelle, you are the first person in my Women's History Month series, so I'm so happy to have you. This series this month is focusing on women who are making history now. So I'd like to introduce you to Jon'll Boyd, the co-owner and winemaker of Boyd Crew Wines. Thank you so much for coming and talking to me. I'm so excited.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tori. This is so awesome to be here with you and to be kicking off Women's History Month.
Tori Talk. Who got the tea? Who got the tea? Yeah. It's Tori Talk. Who got the tea? She got the tea. Yeah. Anything you need to know. Tori Talk. Just tune into the show. Tori Talk.
Well, yeah, it was like, we had tried to do before, and I was like, oh, Jon'll be perfect for my first guest. One, because I'm a lover of wine. And everyone knows who watches the show that I always try to have some sort of spirits or snacks or bites. And I always try to have Black-owned wine. I've actually had one of your wines on my earlier episodes. So if you guys have been following me, you've seen me at a few of her events. And like some of her wine tasting events. Such a lovely couple, because this is a couple-owned business.
Me and the hubby.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you were able to.
Yes, I'm glad to be here. I was excited. Anytime, obviously, I get to sip on wine with another woman in business, then it's always right. It's always a good day.
Clink, clink, clink.
That's right.
So, March is also my birthday month, so I was like, look at me being born in Women's History Month.
Yes, come on now.
I'm on my daddy.
Power.
They knew. So I would like to kick off just a couple general things with you right now. So right now, there's a lot happening, and we have some people who are boycotting, large manufacturers that some of our businesses are within.
Retailers.
Yes, the retailer. Thank you. I couldn't get the word out. The
you're
retailers.
Fine. You're fine.
So for you, you are in a retailer, but just at the level of being a small, family-owned business, what would you recommend for people who are saying, you got to boycott the big stores, you can't buy anything? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it has been quite the roller coaster right now. I think people are very much torn, especially as it relates to, all of these DEI rollbacks that are happening with these major corporations that some, were touting profusely that they were going to be doing all of these initiatives and that they were very much DEI advocates of DEI, especially around the George Floyd, around the time that George Floyd was murdered. And to see them now really kind of pulling back the curtains and deciding not to support DEI is very disheartening, So I get the frustration and I get the I get the right to be angry behind it. I think small businesses, particularly Black-owned businesses, we are in a position, I know some would say we're in a very precarious position because without the support in these major retailers, there are some small businesses that will be at risk and be harmed. But I tend to, I'm a glass half full type of girl. So I tend to always lend myself to looking at things like, well, what is the opportunity out of this? And, for Boyd Crew Wines, even though, yes, we are in Target, even though, yes, we are in other major retailers, the way that I have approached this is a time for me to prepare our business by making sure we don't have all our eggs in one basket. So what this has taught me, or what this has reaffirmed, that's what I should say, is that we don't need to depend on just one retailer. We need to actually build our own. And we need to put ourselves in a position where people can buy directly from us, whether that's online as well as in our new tasting room that's to come.
You're jumping ahead.
I
We're
know.
not there
I'm so
yet.
sorry. Look, look. Sometimes you have to tell me apps because I do tend to jump. But I think over the overarching resolve that I'm trying to get at is that we have to keep ourselves in a position to be flexible, to be nimble, and to be agile. I think those three characteristics are really important for a small business, particularly Black-owned businesses right now.
And what I've been telling people when they've like brought this up to me, I said, I understand the bigger picture and I get that.
Yeah.
But for, brands and businesses like you, like this is where you meet your customer where they are all over the nation,
Sure.
And I'm like, if nothing more,
Yeah.
if you go to those retailers, just continue to support
Yeah.
the Black-owned businesses that are featured in these retailers.
Absolutely.
I don't tell you to spend money nowhere
Yeah,
else, but I'm
yeah.
always an advocate of Black-owned businesses,
Yep.
female-owned businesses, if you can, minority-owned,
Yeah.
whatever you can do and do your part.
Yeah.
If that's all you're buying, and there's so many, just in Target alone,
Yeah.
different businesses across the spectrum,
Absolutely.
you can shop all Black in a
Absolutely.
large retailer, and
Yeah.
and if not, go to those websites directly.
Go to the websites directly, and I would say for us as Black-owned businesses, find small retailers that are in these other areas that you can also put your products in or your brand in, right? I know the convenience of a major retailer is that you got a one-stop shop that is nationwide. But sometimes in order to drive change, there has to be change. And sometimes that even means in the way that you do business.
Yeah.
So
True.
not easy, but it's doable.
Now, next I want to talk to you about just general wine drinking.
Yeah.
I've been to quite a few of your events, and I know some people who are like sommeliers, and they're like, they're telling you all this stuff. What do you feel has been like when you and your husband have come into the wine business?
Mm-hmm.
What was that vibe like? Because I went to an event where I had spirits of all kinds, wine included, champagne, and they let me know the reception to them has not always been great.
Sure.
And everyone is so snobby in the
Right.
wine, the wine making. What is your experience?
Yeah,
been?
I mean, you're starting to see a little bit of that pretentiousness fade away. I think as more people, I think what's really helping, particularly the wine industry, is that you got more people coming into the wine industry that are not from the wine industry. Sometimes people with a different set of eyes, it takes for them to come into an industry to see the shift and change in it, because we tend to make up our own rules. We're not pigeonholed to, well, this is what has always been done, or this is how it's always been. We come in with a different set of eyes, and that's kind of what me and my husband did. We said, we were never into wine because of the pretentiousness or the snobbiness. That has never been what's attracted us. What attracted us is that we could do exactly what we're doing right now. We could have a good glass of wine, sit down with some good people, and have some great conversation, and leave those conversations and those bottles of wine feeling fulfilled, afterwards. And that's what really spoke to us. That's what resonated with us. And I think if we focus there, I always say if we focus on, not necessarily just what's in the bottle, but if we focus on the experience around the bottle, then that's what will keep people coming back for more, And so you mentioned that you've been to several of our events, because that's what we do. Like we want to host events and experiences that get people excited, that bring the joy, and that are also meaningful, right? And meaningful can be a several different things, a couple different things, but at the end of the day, it's connecting people, and that's what we want to do, because if you enjoy it, if you enjoy the wine, then that's the best wine. Like people ask me, well, what's the best wine you've ever had? The wine that I enjoy.
I love that. I really do. And I think about it is that, like, as I get older, as I realize, like, my tastes get older and, like, the things that I like to do, it's like a natural progression that I became more into wine. And I don't know if that's just, like, what happens to us as we grow. But what I love, like you said, like, it has to have, like, a story, and I love to be able to know that I am doing something impactful with people in my own community.
Yes.
I mean, that's what Tori Talk is all about.
Yeah.
Like, so, when Ashley, your publicist, reached out, shout out to A and JPR.
Yes. Whoop, whoop.
I was like, 100% love it. Wine, what?
Right.
I get a taste of wine, what?
Exactly.
They're what?
Exactly.
And when you mentioned your husband, let's go back and talk about that journey for you. So how was it, one saying, hey, I'm going to maybe get into wine, and then was it your idea? Were you bringing hubby along? Like, how did it go?
Well, we've always both had a love for wine. Like, I can remember back when we were first dating, like, one of our first dates was that we met at a wine bar, like, and of course we didn't know back then that was going to be connected to this, but it's just always been there in the background, when we would, I can think about when we would take our kids, like, once we had kids, we would take our kids to the winery, and people would be like, you at the winery with your kids? We're like, yes, we are, actually. And it was because we could be outside, nobody would be staring at you like, can't you keep your baby quiet, And those are real life problems that, that families have as they transition from being a couple to being a family. And we just used to always think, what, we could see ourselves doing this one day, because really at the core, and that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that at the core of winemaking is family. There's so much history in it, so much tradition in it, and most wineries and vineyards are family owned.
They are.
So it makes sense to us. I think for us, being that we are Black, African American, minority, especially in this industry, it was more of, well, how do we do this? Because there aren't a lot of people that we can look out here and say, oh, well, they've done this before, so we can do this too. So it was about, how do we find our path into doing this that makes sense for us, but then also opens the door for maybe somebody else who wants to follow a different path as well, right? And so I think, when we first started out, we both felt like this could be something we could do. I will say I'm more of the visionary. I do love, I love dreaming up big things, especially if I know that it's going to be impactful to my community. And so, I carried a lot of the vision, but hubby was there too. He was like, okay, I think we could do this. He is more of a behind the scenes guy. He's definitely not the, I gotta be all out in front. He has a quiet confidence.
But he's not here today.
Right. He has a quiet confidence. Like, he has nothing to prove. Like, that's always his philosophy. I don't have nothing to prove. Like, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can do. He was like, so I'll let you be out there. You be the face. I'll handle this back here.
But don't you love that, though? It's like, I think what I'm learning, just like in life and as I grow and as I like talk to some of my like friends and family, I don't necessarily need my spouse to be the idea person or to come up with it, because that's me. It's firing on all cylinders all the time. I just want you to support.
Right.
I want you to be like, how can I help? If you want to do this, how do I help you do that?
How we do it, exactly.
And that seems like that's kind of like the vibe that you have.
And we also have learned, like, don't get me wrong, we've had to learn how to move, right? It doesn't just come, like, it's not like, oh, we're going to run a business. Okay, tomorrow we got it, It's like, oh, okay, we're running a business now. And so we had to learn how to navigate being business partners and being spouses.
How was that?
It can be tricky.
I was like, I am not necessarily business partners
Yes.
with my fiance, but as you know,
Yeah, you guys help each other.
He's
Exactly.
operating the
in
camera
business.
as we speak and monitoring our sounds, make sure I'm not screaming. But, you know,
Yeah.
I know that can be challenging sometimes too.
It can be tricky. Like, we've had to learn boundaries. Like, okay, we turn the business talk off at a certain point, and we find other things to talk about. And business is off the table. It's off the limits. And for somebody who's very ambitious like me, that can be very hard because I'm always thinking. Like, this mind is always going. It never shuts off. And so I've had to learn, like, okay, now's not the time. Mm-hmm. Save that for when it's time to focus on business. I think for him also, he's very analytical. I'm very, again, people-driven and visionary-driven. So I'm thinking pie in the sky. I'm way up here thinking about all the things in the clouds. And he's like, but let's look at this P&L.
We got like 15 steps before we get there.
Let's look at this budget. And let's look at where this coming from. You know, so that's where we've had to learn each other as well. You know, but it's good because you don't want to have two people that are like pie in the sky because then you have nobody to be grounded. Or
who's
two
gonna
people,
do the work?
Right? Who gonna do the work?
We all in the vision.
Out here dreaming, right? And then simultaneously, you don't want to have two people who are super analytical because then who's carrying the vision forward? Exactly. So.
And you know, I think that is so good. And like, you know, when I first heard about you and your husband and your story about, you know, the first time I actually got to meet you, it was you and your sons with your kids. I was like, oh, it's so nice. But, you know, I think I really love the aspect, like you said, like it's a family business. And I'm sure whether the, you know, boys would grow up and drink wine or not, like,
who knows?
Yeah, this is still like, wow, look what my parents did. They had an
exactly.
idea, they had a dream, and they, you know, went for
and
it.
They executed, you know, regardless of what the outcome is, they've been able to see the progression of this. And they actually really do love it, especially my oldest. He loves it. He asks questions. Well, how much did we sell today? You know, and he asked me the other day when we were doing distribution. Well, how many retailers are we distributing to now?
He's at the school like, my mom and dad are doing this, and this.
Right.
And if you don't know them, well, go to this store and you can find my name.
He loves that his picture, you know, is on things. And so I always look at that as, you know what, it's good for your kids to have. I used to believe that sometimes you have to be careful about sacrificing so much of your kids' lives into a business because they still got to be kids. And I still believe that, right? Like we always have to be careful about how we're balancing their life with business life, you know, and then family life.
Yeah.
But I do think that it is good for kids to be involved and engaged because at the end of the day, they're seeing what their path could be no matter what. Like, I've got options. I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And who doesn't want to have as many options as possible when they're thinking about their future, you know?
And for me, when I first heard, you know, like what we were going through, and you're like, okay, you're a winemaker. It's like, you started making wine at home.
Yes.
How did that even go? Like, I can just imagine you like in there with a bunch of like pots and, you know, trying to taste everything. And, you know, I don't even know the process of wine, but from what I know, it is a very like fragile and particular process.
Yeah, it is. It's a very arduous process. There's a lot to it. You definitely have to make sure you follow each step, you know, especially when I was making wine in the kitchen, I was using like different things that I bought online and buckets and juice and, you know, and chemicals. And so you definitely have to follow the process, you know. You know, the first time was not so good. That wine never got drank. No, it didn't make the cut. It never made it into a bottle, and it never ever was drank by anybody. So no lives were harmed in the making of that first wine. but you know, I love the artistry of making wine. And I think that's what kept me intrigued, because I'm like, oh, wait a minute. If I add this and I add a little bit of this, then I can actually manipulate the profile and the taste of this wine, and that's what kept me going. And then, of course, I did my apprenticeship where I went up to the Finger Lakes, New York, and really, kind of got some more formal type of training. And that just, again, I've always been a very inquisitive and very curious person. If you just try to tell me something, I'm like, no, yeah. What does that mean and why? So I ask a lot of questions. And I think that's one of the reasons why winemaking really intrigued me, because I'm like, okay, well then how does this work? And if I add this yeast, then how does this work? And it's like a big chemistry set, So, needless to say, my husband, his background is chemistry and pharmacy. So, needless to say, it helped that I had him there, because he knew the stuff. He knew the yeast strains. He knew the chemicals. So, of course, when I put the wrong ones in, he's like, no, that's not right. Right?
This is not right. So, we are in Maryland. Mm-hmm. What the heck is a Maryland grape tasting like? You know what I mean? Because it's like you hear so much about, obviously wines from overseas, or you hear a lot about the California grape.
California wines,
but we in Maryland have a few wineries.
Yep.
But like, how has that experience been for you?
I think it's been an evolution. Like when we first started researching wine in Maryland, what we were seeing is that there were some really great wines. There were some really great terroir and grapes that were being grown. And so we saw a lot of potential. Like, a lot of people know Virginia and know that Virginia has come a long ways. But Virginia wasn't always like that. Like, Virginia had to start somewhere too. And now they've made a name for themselves because they've gotten really good at understanding what grapes grow well, winemaking techniques, how to make their wine really well. And so they've evolved. And so I think Maryland is kind of in the same place. I think the more that winemakers are learning, the more they're learning about the grapes, the more they're learning their techniques. I think that you're starting to see wine in Maryland evolved, and it's not just, some people are like, oh, well, Maryland's always been known for just sweet wines. Mm-hmm. And that may have been true, 10 years ago, but there are a lot of wineries and vineyards now who make great wine that is quality. The great thing about some of the soil right in Maryland is that some of it is actually equal to soil that's in like France, parts of France. So I always say it goes back to understanding what grows well in your backyard, like literally where you are. And if you understand that, then that's what's going to help you to make really good wine, and we're just excited to be a part of it and see this kind of evolution and elevation of the wine in Maryland. I know I've heard a couple of people online saying like Maryland is about to come for people's necks because it's like
every time I look up,
it's there. The excitement is there, the elevation is there. I think the desire to see Maryland do well in wine is there. And Maryland, despite what a lot of people may not know, is that Maryland is a huge playground for agriculture. Like, agriculture in Maryland overall is a big thing.
When I think about it, like, in southern places, but they forget, technically we are below the base of Dixie, right. So we are in the South.
Yeah.
As people tell me when they say I don't know how to talk. They're like, what did you say?
I'm
like,
a Southern girl, all the way from Georgia, so don't get me started.
I'm like, what? But, earlier you spoke about like the potential that we have here in the area. And then you talk about some of the wineries that are around. You, Boyd Creek Wines, and your hubby and your family are opening a tasting room.
Yeah.
Now, when I first met you and I first chat, my very first question was, where is the tasting room so I can come and drink some wine, bring my friends, get dressed up, and eat?
Yes.
And it was like, it's coming.
Yeah.
And honestly, that feels like yesterday. I promise you. Like when I think back to like the event, the first event when you guys were launching in Target, that was my first event.
That's right.
To now.
Yeah.
It feels like it was yesterday to me. And now, let's talk about this tasting room.
Yeah, wow. You're right. It has happened pretty fast. I guess because we're knee deep in it. Sometimes we're like, no, this has been a while.
Arduous path.
Right. Like, no. But you're right. It has happened quicker than what we thought. I think we gave ourselves, when we were making our business plan, we said maybe in the next 5 years we'd open a tasting room. And here we are, like, about to be at 2 years, and we're opening a tasting room. So, I think that speaks to when you really have a vision and it's built on community. And I want to be clear about that because there are 9,000, probably more than that, wines out here in the world. And I remember when I was taking my wine business management course to prepare for us launching, I had a professor in the course say to me, well, what makes you think that your wine is going to be any different than any other wine, and why would somebody want to buy it? And I remember being a little taken back, like, wait a minute, sir.
Did he phrase it just like that?
Yeah, just like that.
Taken back,
just like that.
Don't play with me, sir.
Right. He said it just like that. And I was like, oh, okay. But I think what I know what he was trying to get across to me was you need to be prepared to be able to share this in a way that it will answer that question. Exactly, that it will answer that question for people, because otherwise, what makes you different, and why does the world need another wine, right? And I think from the very beginning, that's one of the reasons why we have shared our story about how we got started and how this has been such a big dream of ours, because we wanted people to understand that we are different. We didn't just, we didn't have family that was already in the wine industry and we inherited, this business. We don't have land that we have inherited. We're not just here to serve you up just any old bottle of wine. Like, there's a lot of intention and thought that goes into every decision that's made. And that's why we also wanted to have our hands on the winemaking process so that we could be able to share those things. And then it being built on community. The fact that you've come to several of our wine events says a lot, because we know that we're building a community that's going to keep showing up. So I say all that to say the tasting room organically has always been the next step for us, because we said we're building this thing from the ground up. We had no idea the time frame, but the fact that we're here is not a surprise, because we knew that's where we were going. But we're excited. We're excited, not just for us, but because we searched high and low for the perfect place that we could do this, and the journey hasn't been easy. There's been challenges to get over, from funding to regulations to permits to licensing, but we're still here, and for a business, just to put things in perspective, the wine industry is one of the most challenging businesses that you can get started in. People sometimes don't even make it past a year in this industry, right? So for small businesses alone, I think it's 3 to 5 years. I think it is. But in the wine industry, it's just a year.
Yeah, that is very fast.
Right. So to be embarking upon our second year, getting ready to open a tasting room, driving revenue, is a pretty big deal. And honestly, without our community and people, I don't care you can hear me talk online, you can hear me talk on a podcast, you can hear me talk on social media, and I will always say that it is because of our community.
I've heard you say that many times, so I know for a fact that it's true. And let's talk a little bit about what is going to be in this tasting room. Like, what is it going to look like? Are we going to have events? Are there going to be bites?
Yes.
Like, because for me, like, so I have Tori Talk, this is where I do like all my promotion of my businesses, but I also have another platform called Refined Taste.
Right.
And within Refined Taste, I do that whenever I'm out of the country. I do it locally because I'm like, hey, I went and did all of this and tasted all of this, so you don't have to, or so you can.
So you can, exactly, and know what you're going to get. That's right.
When it comes to that, I'm always, just like with Tori Talk, like, where can we spend our money? Where can we really support and really do, like, some amazing work for our community,
Yeah.
So it was like, the tasting room, where is it?
Yeah.
What is it going to be like? Show me the vision. I've seen, like, your building.
Yeah.
It's all on social media, so they're documenting the entire process.
Yes, exactly.
What is it going to be?
And that's something that we like to do, too, is documenting our process so that our community can come along for the ride, can be a part of the whole journey, basically. So, yes. So what is it gonna feel like? Well, first of all, it's so funny. I keep using the concept of it's gonna feel like you just walked into like your cool auntie's living room, right? Like if you think about everybody has a foo-foo auntie. Like I don't care who you are, everybody has that auntie who she always gonna be dressed to the nines.
I hope to be that auntie.
She's gonna be right.
I got a little 5-year-old. He not gonna appreciate it. If he was a little girl, he's like, oh my goodness, my auntie. But I think he knows.
She's gonna be the one with the fly car, the fly fit. But when you come over to her house, you feel at home.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like you can't touch things or like you can't sit on the couch. It's not like grandma's couch where you got the plastic on it. You're like you can sit, you can just kick back and chill. And that's the type of vibe we want the tasting room to have. It's like casually chic. Like you can be casual. You can, we're gonna when you walk in, we're gonna say welcome home, but yet it feels nice. It feels like you're at home but elevated, right? And it's gonna be a vibey vibe, but it's gonna feel like community. Definitely gonna bring the boldness and vibrancy of our brand. If you know us well, then you know that we are very vibrant in our colors, and even in our approach. If you ever see us out in an event and meet any one of our Wine Vibe consultants, they're gonna be vibrant too. But you're gonna be able to come in and experience different wine events that we have. We've got some amazing pairings that we're going to be doing. We've already started setting our event calendar with collaborations with other small businesses that are going to just be phenomenal pairings. I want to say, but I can't say.
I know.
What some
Too
of those
early
are.
to give us the tea.
But I'm telling you, you are not going to want to miss it. And even further, if people are going to want to be a part of our wine club, because we've got some really great wine club exclusive events that we're going to be hosting for our wine club members, for them to just be able to come out and enjoy in different ways that are going to be exclusive to them. So that's going to be really exciting. One of my favorite parts, though, is that we have some really great community programs that are going to be happening within the space. And so one of them is our retail residency program, where we're going to be featuring different small business owners, minority-owned, Black-owned, woman-owned, right there in our retail space. They'll be able to pop up, so people will be able to come and meet them and see who the makers, the producers are, and they'll be able to be in our space for 12 months. Reason we're doing that is because one of the things we realized is when we launched is that it was very hard to find consistent places that we could have our wine in front of our consumer, and that hurts your revenue and your profits, because your community, your fan base, they look for where can they come and get your product, and while they might be able to come to like a pop-up that you're at, what happens when they've run out of your product and now they're like, okay, well, where you at now?
Yeah,
right?
like I already drank this.
Right, I drank that bottle yesterday, but you ain't there again today, so where do I go now? And so, just based on our own experiences, we're like, we want to give other small businesses, afford them the opportunity to have that consistency for a year where they can just drive traffic and say, hey, well, this is one place you can come and find us.
Hey, come here.
Now, you was over there sleeping.
Okay, you was doing
Don't you
good.
come over here when we almost done.
You were doing-
So, honestly, Jon'll, that is so amazing. And it's, I think, so amazing that you and your husband have decided to make that a part of your business plan. Because that is something not everyone does.
Right.
And
right.
guys, sorry, excuse my dog. He wanted to come in and have a little cameo. This is not cameo time. So, with that said, for me, you started talking about your wine club, right? So, let's talk about the wine.
Yes.
So, we have a couple bottles here displayed of Boyd
Absolutely.
Crew.
Yes.
So, let's talk about the wines that you have in collection right now.
Yeah. So, right here is our community Vidal Blanc, and it is, I would say our bestseller. We've sold out of it 3 times, 3 runs now, and it's,
I bought 2 bottles.
Yeah, and it is back.
They're gone.
It is finally back for this year with our new vintage. But it is just such a lovely wine. It is very crisp, light. It has like notes of citrus and apple and pear, and so guys, we talk about moods, right, and not foods. That is a part of our unique differentiator. So the moods on the back here say relatable, swag, relaxed, fun. So I think that gives you a good idea of why it's so popular, right? Because you can literally have a good time. It is a good time in a bottle, right?
That was the first bottle I bought.
Yes,
That was the first one. And I was like in the Target like, they bought all the wine. There's no more wine.
Where is it? Yes, I mean it goes fast, So, and it's it's just it's a very approachable wine. And then right next to it is, I call it its cousin, because after we did the still version, we had to do the sparkling. So we released our very first sparkling, which you were there.
I
See,
did
look
a
at that.
refined taste on
Continuity.
that. So if you guys, if you don't know me, you don't know Jon'll, you don't know Boyd Crew wines, I did a refined taste at the tasting when they launched this. So it was super amazing. So make sure you go and check
Shanklin
that.
Hall.
Yes,
Shout
at
out to
Shanklin
Shanklin
Hall.
Hall.
I will be putting the link to Shanklin Hall as well as the link to that video below.
Yeah, so that's the sparkling, and it is a method champenois style sparkling, which means that it was fermented in bottle. And I always point that out because there are different styles of sparkling. Some are more of like a forced carbonation, which is a little, it's, in my opinion, it's less authentic.
Okay.
It means that kind of the carbonation was done through a machine as opposed to it being done authentically or organically in the bottle.
How do you do it organically?
So
It's like, girl, we don't know.
yeah, so so basically what happens is that the yeast are what helps it to create the bubbles. Yeah, and that whole process happens in the bottle. And so it's actually a fairly long process. I mean, we fermented our sparkling for roughly about 10 months before we released it and disgorged it, then released it. But you'll just notice that the bubbles are less harsh. Like you don't, if you've ever, for those who drink sodas, like you might remember, like sometimes when you drink a soda, you get that like burpy feeling,
Me and my ginger ale,
right.
Canada Dry.
Exactly. And you're like, oh, why do I need to burp something? It's usually because of the bubbles, It's a little bit more forceful. So you don't have that with this, but it gives you just the right amount of bubbles, and it still has that light, refreshing taste that that Vidal Blanc is known to have, but just in a sparkling. And it can go with anything. Like it's for all types of celebrations. It is for everyday drinking. Like I love to have me a glass of bubbly to wind down the night. Look, bubbly to wind down the night. I know it's oxymoron, but But yeah, and then our all of our bottles have artwork featured on the front of them that has been designed by local artists. So this
Yes,
one,
this was
yep.
the one that I was at. I got to meet the artist. That was in the video.
Meet the artist. Yep. Shout out to Rashad. So those are our two of our whites, and then back there we have our Free Spirit Rosé, which is the Merlot Rosé. Yes.
I can show
that would be our next bestseller after our Vidal Blanc, which has also sold out 3 times in a row. But that's our Merlot Rosé, which the Merlot, we chose the Merlot to do the rosé because it just makes the rosé a little bit more fruit forward. Merlot is a more fruit forward grape. Like it just gives a little bit more tasting profile than other grapes that you can make rosé out of. And we wanted it to be smooth, but yet still have some good flavor to it. So a lot of people say they get flavor notes of like strawberry, grapefruit, cherry off of it, and I would say that's pretty right in line. And then the moods on this one are carefree, party, time, party time,
carefree and party.
That's
those
right,
sound lovely.
and joyful, which I would say that's pretty accurate.
And so for me, first, before we start to get into like where everyone can like, follow you and get your wine, what I would love to know from you is just your opinion, like girl talk, like, wine downs. I think like we've all coined that. It's like, this is girl time.
Yeah.
We come together, we talk, we eat good food, we
Right.
drink a glass of
Right,
wine,
that's
and then
right.
like, they say we fellowship.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that like black girl time, talking it out time, wine down time is so synonymous with wine?
I think it's because, wine is a relaxant. Like, part of our mission is also to bring people together, but also in a self-care way, right? So we do talk about how part of our mission is also self-care and self-expression. The self-care part comes from wine truly being a relaxant. So, that's why when you sit down with a glass of wine, not only do you want to be social with your girls, but you also start to feel more relaxed. You let your hair down a little bit, you kiki, you're ready to kick your shoes off and, just kind of be more mellow than if, like, let's say when we're out in the world and we're trying to be, put our best foot forward. We feel like sometimes we have to put on a little bit of a mask because we're trying to be this way or that way, depending on the environment that we're in. And I think that with our girlfriends, we feel like we can just be at peace, that we can be ourselves, right? And the wine helps us to be ourselves. I always talk about, we don't promote over drinking. We don't promote getting drunk.
Right.
But we do promote just enjoying yourself. We say sip outside the lines because we don't want you to feel restricted in how you enjoy our wine or feel like you have to follow these set of rules, right? And that's where that stemmed from, is because we just want you to enjoy. And enjoying looks like sitting down or fellowshipping with people that you feel like you can be yourself with, that you feel like you can express yourself with. And that's where that connection comes from. So I think that's why that's important for us. And to be honest, we don't have a lot of safe spaces where we feel authentically that we can do, that authentically. So I think when we do find those spaces, we tend to really covet those and hold those near and dear.
And we will have one at Boy Crew Tasting Room.
Absolutely, we will. We will have
Sure,
many.
it's going to be a vibey.
Very vibey.
So what part of Maryland is the tasting room going to be in?
So it's in Savage, Maryland, inside of Savage Mill, which is a old historic mill that used to be used for like antiques and, and just different like old world things. But now it's really become a small business community. So even when you come to visit us, you're going to find that you can kind of make a day out of it and go and do some candle making at Candles by Candy, which is also woman owned and black owned. You can pop into More Than Java Cafe, which is also owned by a husband and wife duo. You'll be able to go and get a spa, go to the spa because there's a wellness spa there that is
also
also
serve your wine.
That is serving our wine.
Better serve
That's
your
right.
wine.
And they are also woman owned and black owned. So you'll be able to make a day out of it, and it kind of be like a destination spot for you to just come and have a good time for the day with your girls, with your boyfriend, your husband, your family, whoever you're with that day.
I love it, and I'm like so excited. It's April. Are we still? It's March.
Don't remind me, please.
Are we still hitting April? And can I put that in my mind? April is happening.
April. Yes, we're still hitting April.
So amazing! I'm so happy for you guys. That is so nice.
Much. Thank you.
And
so
I'm
much.
like, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for it.
Yes, tell everybody.
I know, and I do. I was some person in my head. So I was like, I'm interviewing Jon'll Boyd of Boyd Crew Wine.
Right.
And I was like, oh, you should look around. And that was like the whole pitch. I did like the whole pitch. That's what I do every single time for anyone who's on the show.
I love it.
And now what's left? So like for everyone at home, and again, whether you are in Maryland, whether you're not in Maryland, where can people find you, support you? Follow you, Absolutely. Get a part of this journey, please Let them know.
Well, if you are in Maryland, then of course you should be making your way to the tasting room in April. And so you'll want to get on our website, go to our website, boydcrewwines.com, and you'll be able to get on our newsletter, which will keep you up to date on all of the information about when we're opening, what activities or I should say festivities, because we're going to be having a lot of opening weekend festivities going on for the entire weekend. And then also you'll be able to find out other places that we are, leading up to April. We usually pop up in different events and farmers markets and things like that. So you also be able to find that information. Now, if you're not in Maryland, that does not excuse you because you can get our wine shipped to you. So we do currently ship to 42 different states. And so we can ship our wine to you and it'd be right there at your door so that you can have a nice vibey time at home.
And you know what would be nice too? Like if it was like some sort of like YouTube live or Instagram live or something where the people who are in your community who ship their wine and we are tasting it together.
I love that. Well, we might have to get with Tori Talk to set that up. Okay. And I should say you also, on the back of that's one of the reasons why we put our QR code on the back of each of our wines, because like if people do buy them, or when they buy them, for them to be shipped to them, then that creates a whole experience. So when they scan that, it takes them to our mood board, and there's a lovely video of me and the hubby talking about the wines and how to pair them with different things. So.
Oh. And other than your website, where can they follow?
Yes, on Instagram. So everything Boyd Crew Wines, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. We are Boyd Crew, and that's CRU Wines on everything.
Janelle, it is always a pleasure.
And you as well.
Talking to you.
Yes.
I am so happy for your journey and for you to continue on. Please call me when you have your opening, because I would love to be there and cover it.
So you already know.
And until next time, again, like I said, this is the first in the series. Yeah. I want you guys to know who is coming up next, but I actually can't say. So, I got me a secret for once. Yeah,
exactly.
But it's definitely someone who was very influential to me. In like my career in journalism, and someone that I've looked up to, had the pleasure of meeting. Awesome. And I can't wait for you guys to see that. Let's support our businesses. Let's support our Black-owned businesses. Let's support our women. Yes. Because like I said at the top, we are making history today.
Absolutely.
And everything that you are doing, you and your husband and everything that you will do is making history. And we thank you. And we can't wait to continue to support you moving forward.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your continued support. We really appreciate it.
And until next time, thank you guys for tuning in. See you soon.